Doing is you're finding your heights, working the same way as a laser level. We want to zero this thing out. We want to go and find our high point. How do you find your high point? You just have to randomly guess. You have to say, okay, on the perimeters of my wall, there's a foundation. Probably nothing settled there. Around a column line, good foundation, probably didn't settle there. So I'm going to go around those areas and I'm going to try to find my high point. So you see these little doodads bouncing around? I'm going to go to, here's my corner. I'm going to think that, probably a good chance that this is a nice zero mark. That's my high point. I'm going to wait for these things to stop dancing. You'll see a zero there. So now I'm going to say, that's my high point. I believe that's my high point. Once I have that, I'm going to go wherever I want. Then I'm going to check it. A lot of times before I do any of this, I lay out a grid on the floor, snap chalk lines. And I have 3-foot grid, 4-foot grid. We can vary the grid to how flat we want this floor. So if we wanted to do an MRI in a hospital, it has to be crazy flat, we might do a 2-foot grid. Normally, we're doing 4-foot, 5-foot. So we change the grid spacing to what we're going to need for the end use. So all I'm doing with this thing, when I go and I hit my point, before I peel and stick that, I'm going to go over here, whatever it says. There's an arrow here. What's nice about a laser level, when you read those, and I've done this, you have to pay attention to which way everything's going, and sometimes you could think a positive as a negative and you reversed your numbers on the floor. I don't know if I'm being clear with that. So instead of subtracting an eighth, you're adding an eighth. This thing eliminates that. There's a simple arrow, and this arrow says, go up, that means your floor is low, and I have to go up whatever that number says. If my arrow is saying go down, I found my new high spot. Then I have to start over and start from that high spot. So then all I'm doing, I can do this on my own. I like to do it with two guys. I just go to my grid and I take a reading and say, okay, 21. 21 is millimeters. I have it metric. These things are metric. You just take one of these off. There's markings on here. 10, 20, that's millimeters. So 21, cut it at 21, stick it at that point. So if I had this whole thing gridded out with string line, and I read to you 21, cut it, stick it 21. I take a reading here, 19, cut it, stick it 19. I come over here, it's 12, and just so on and so forth. And then, so now you have your whole floor pinned. So now when you say an eighth of an inch won't level a floor, you're right, but that thing just leveled your floor. So we don't care what the floor was doing because we just fixed it with these. Like this is going to be our new floor height, the top of those. So if I'm high here and low here and all over the place, it doesn't matter. That's why we're here. We're fixing that with these things. So when I'm done with the floor, I don't have just an eighth of an inch. I have a half an inch here. I have 7/8 of an inch there. When I'm done, the top of these pins are crazy flat, and you can put a 4x4 piece of tile down if you want, and your setting time just goes rocket fast. Your plank, your joint, your lines won't run.